As Nadia said, my name is Damon Pryor, and I am currently the Assistant Dean of Students, particularly Student Engagement and Success at the University of Toledo. In the University of Toledo, I'm in the 9th year. Come November, I'll be beginning my 10th year here at in the Glass City. I have spent over 19 years in the profession of higher education. Before that, 2 years as a graduate assistant. So you might as well say I've been over 20 years in joy. I'm looking extremely excited. I was excited when my guy Seneca asked me to present. It was an honor to be able to do so. And I'm looking forward to a bit of time with you all talking about how we build community within community. This is a space that I think is extremely important for us as we look at higher education, particularly higher education and K through 12, because right now, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the world, and I'm not just going to say higher education is under attack, education in general attack. Those folks that some have put in office not looking at and how important it is to make sure education is at the forefront for our young people. Remind us that the great said education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. One more time, great Malcolm X said, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. What does that mean, Mr. Pryor? Well, that means that education is important to the success of all of our students, right? All of our students, whether it's K through 12, whether it's higher ed, and then some, because there's a continuation of education that occurs even once you're done, whether it's at the K through 12s, whether it's undergrad, and then if you're going to further education and getting that doctorate degree beyond. So where you are, education continues. Well, one of the most important things about education, particularly now, is how do we set the room? How do we ensure that to teach, to educate, to uplift? How are we making sure that they're comfortable in the spaces? These places of education, the environments to some of those negative things that are coming about. Well, we want to flip that. And in this conversation, we're going to focus on how we build the spaces, build within communities to uplift and encourage young people to be as successful as they can possibly be. Many of us, if not all of us on the screen, had the great fortune of going to school, right, in some capacity. And in school, you had a favorite something, or a favorite somebody, or a favorite place, favorite thing to do. You had a favorite, right? And it all sit around your educational experience, the environment that you were in. So that was made because of the individuals that were your teacher, your educators. They set the course. And now look at you now. You've been successful over the years. Yes, you ups. Yes, you had some downs, but you are successful. I see people that I'm quite sure are city level positions within your organizations, within your profession, within your church, within your civic and local environment. So that's very important. So again, we are talking about building students so that they can be successful moving on. First things we want to talk about when we talk about building community within community. I want to share this with you. I did some research and started looking at some things that were written. I'm a reader, so I enjoy reading, like Inside Higher Ed, the Chronicle of Higher Ed and Beyond. And what in both of those is they talked about this perspective of building community within community. So that struck my fancy, right? It jumped out at me, and I'm like, what does that mean? What are we talking about? And in this study, it was saying in the post-COVID world, what students are looking for is they're looking to be in an environment where they feel community, They want to be associated with individuals or places or things that are similar in nature to what they are. So, I did some more homework and started to think about, when we talk about community, what does that mean? So in being a scholar, or trying to be a scholar, I did some homework definition wise. So from the research that I looked at and found, you talk about community is a group of people living in a same place or having a particular characteristic in common. I'll pause so you can hear that and you can receive that. So community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. It's also a feeling of fellowship, right? A feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common, that was that word common again, attitudes, interests, and goals. So then we break it down to two things. Community is a similarity or an identity. Or an identity. We're thinking from the perspective of, if I'm on high and I'm looking at my similarity in the community, how do I help to make it grow? How do I make sure that it's on point? Do that by making sure that your community is as tight as possible, right? So being as tight as possible, I'm paying attention to how am I building community. And I'm trying to build that community by making sure that each person has an opportunity to engage with one another. So in an engagement mindset, I'm looking at taking the community that we're in from a higher ed perspective and growing it even larger. So here's what we're talking about: similarity. So when our students are sitting in classrooms, or if you're in higher ed and they're in the residence hall, I want to be around people who not just only look like me, but they have same interests as I do, right? So that helps me to grow. That helps me to be a stronger and more effective student in the classroom. So what we find in building the community, one of the first things that we have to talk about in building that community is, here's what we get to do as educators, as administrators. We get to create the environment, right? We get to create that environment, that the environment to feel like home. The environment needs to feel like home, right? When you talk about building community, I just talked about similarities. I just talked about identity. I talked about commonalities. Well, in those communities, we want to be in spaces. Students want to be in spaces where they feel like you want me there. 9 times out of 10, most of your students, even most of us, we spend more time in these educational environments than we do with our own family. And if that's the case, then we create this perspective, making sure that the environment is set. So how do you build that? Well, you build that by making sure, as I talked about, we're creating these environments, but there's a couple of key things that I want you to think about when we talk about building the environment. First thing, embrace cultural differences. Embrace cultural differences. It's important as educators that we realize that individuals that are in the settings or in the surroundings or in places that we are in are coming from different perspectives. They're not all the same. They don't all come from the same background. They don't all do the same thing. Everybody's not watching the Flintstones. Everybody's not watching Saved by the Bell back in the day, right? Everybody's not listening to the same music. Some folks like country. I'm not a country music fan, but some of y'all might be, right? So everybody's not listening to hip hop. Everybody's not listening to gospel. So, but it's a whole different perspective. So we as educators must understand, in order to build a community, we have to embrace the cultural differences that our students bring to the table. Whether it's if you're hired, whether it's on the campuses that you're in, if you're in the halls, whether the living situation, we as educators must understand that we have to embrace, we got to be okay with the fact that individuals that sit in our spaces from an education perspective come from different backgrounds. So if you want strong students, if you want that community, start with that. In building your environment, understand, right? Number two, show support. Woo, show support. That's a big one, right? How do I show support? Be there. Be there. Do you know you spend a lot of, your students are, they're not just sitting in the classroom, right? Your students are talented. Some of them are in musical groups, some of them are in bands, some of them are poets and speakers, and some of them are creating their own businesses. How are you supporting in order to increase and build a community, right? We talked about the cultural backgrounds. In order to build that, one of the things that we find that is paramount is you show support. I had great fortunes of speaking to the University of Arizona diversity. And when I was speaking to the University of Arizona, a group from their campus rec program, I talked to them about making sure that we show up and we engage with individuals. If you want individuals, when talking to the University of Arizona, if you want individuals to participate in collegiate recreation at the University of Arizona at the time, you have to make sure that they know that you're there. You're asking them to come to your programs. Why don't you go to their programs? Why don't you look into see what the different organizations are doing? This is vital. We're talking about community. Community supports one another, right? We support one another. We want to make sure each one of us is highly engaged. So you can't just expect people to show up to your classroom, sit and listen to the knowledge that you give, which is extremely important, right? It's extremely important. Well, they're going to be in tune if they also see you supporting them. Support their efforts. Encourage their efforts. Man, could you imagine? I remember, it's been a long time. I can remember some programs that I would do even when I was in the K through 12 system, and I would see some of my teachers there, man. That meant to me, that's as a little shorty, right? As a little shorty, that meant something to me because I saw that my teachers wanted me to be there, and then it translated in the classroom. I had a little bit more success because I was in tune to what they were doing. Same thing when I got to my undergrad. It was the same situation. I had administrators and people that wanted to support me. I was a resident assistant, right? And I did a major program at my alma mater. And at that program, I had administrators who showed up to that program. We were talking about racial issues in America. And the place, the dining hall where I had the program, it was packed with people who poured into me, right? And then that translated me wanting to do better in the classroom, wanting me to do better in the educational environment that I was in. This is how you get students to engage, support. Make sure that you know, I just got off Logan, he was talking about you matter. This is how you show a student that you do matter. I'm supporting you. I'm encouraging you. We have to make sure if we're building communities, that's one of the things that we need to do. So embrace cultural differences and then support, right? Show support. So I want to double back real quick. That's with that embrace cultural differences. Y'all check me out. Some of like you know I just said I don't like country music. Well, you know what? As the assistant dean of students, I got to go to concerts that have country music, and my students love it. And you know what? I show up on those days. I do my homework. I learn about Keith Urban and make sure I know who Keith Urban is. You know what I'm saying? So that when I'm getting in there and I'm whatever his songs is, I'm singing or I can have the conversation. But here's the real talk. They see Mr. Pryor in the house. They see the assistant dean of students in the house, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. That's showing support. That's showing engagement. That's cultural differences. We come from different backgrounds, but I'm able to relate to you in some way, shape, or form. I ain't saying I totally understand where you come from because you don't totally understand where I'm coming from, right? But at the same time, I'm showing every effort that I possibly can. I'm supporting you, right? So those two things are very important. Embrace cultural differences, show support. Number three, check this out, my friends. Eliminate your judgments. Eliminate your judgments. Your judgment needs to be eliminated. How can I build a community when I step in the community, all I'm doing is judging? I'm judging you. First thing I do, I size you up in 5 minutes and then I start judging. Matter of fact, most of us do it in about 2. They talk about 5 minutes. Do it about 2 minutes, right? In the first 2 minutes you start reading somebody real quick. You can read from head to toe. You know everything about. Take your judgments and throw them out the window. If we're going to build a strong community with our students today, your judgment of their family background needs to go away. Now, understand family background. Know about their family background, but don't judge them. Because when you judge, you lose the students. I'm going to share something with you all. Many of you probably already know this, but you know that old saying that people can smell fear. Students can smell a fraud from a mile away. They smell a fraud. So when you show up and you're talking about trying to build your program and getting people to be engaged in programs and getting students to show up and getting students to want to be excited about education, they want to be excited about math, they want to be excited about science, they want to be excited about the history of our country or of our world or whatever it might be. Stop judging them because they come from a certain perspective or a certain place, or because they're younger than the last group, or these COVID students compared to pre-COVID students. Stop judging. Get the judgment out of the way. That cripples your community. Your community is crippled when you judge. So I'm encouraging you at this point, take your judgments and get rid of them. Get rid of them. Again, 3 things so far. Embrace cultural differences, which ties into this, get rid of the judgment piece. Because we judge cultural differences if you didn't realize. So let's get rid of that. As educators, we have to remember, we are educating everybody. Everybody. Everyone that is in your classroom, everyone that is in your school, everyone that is on your campus, you have the ability, you have the opportunity, you have the pleasure, you have the privilege to educate them in some shape, form, or fashion. So get rid of those judgments. Number 2, show support. You can't judge what they do. You want to go and support it. You want to go and make sure that you're showing them, I'm here for you, even if you just need to talk. Maybe you're in that transition phase of trying to figure out what is it that I want to do. Well, by you coming to support and not judging what they're doing, it allows them to know I can come and talk to you. This is the environment that you set. You'll see how this is all tying in, right? This is the environment that you set in building a community, all right? The next thing, what is this, number 4? Number 4, combine your professionalism with family. Combine your professionalism with family. So what does that mean? In our world, we always want to be professional. We want to show up professional. We want to speak professional. We want to present ourselves professional. You're educating the young people how to do that, while at the same time understanding I need to marry professionalism with building a family mindset and a family culture within my setting. When you're talking about with the family culture, your students need to feel comfortable coming to talk to you. They need to feel comfortable that you're going to nurture them, but also have a firm hand or firm perspective when needed. Y'all talking about, because our parents, they were able to balance that. They stayed professional while at the same time they loved you. They didn't love everything that you did, but they loved you. They didn't love every decision that you made, but they loved you. Or shall I say they love you. So balance the professionalism with the family perspective. One of the things for me that I've always used professionally because I was taught this from what I've seen from individuals that have always been around, is you create the environment that you want, right? So I saw this family perspective. I even used it, as a young professional with my staff. Seneca Wilson, who many of you know. Seneca was the first graduate assistant that I hired many moons ago at Old University. And one of the things that I was looking for is I wanted to bring someone in to help me build a family mindset, which then created the opportunity for us to engage and to work together and to build something very strong at the time at Oakland University, right? So what did we do? Well, we supported them. We went to their different functions. We went to the activity that they were creating, some of their different organizations that they were involved in. They would see us there. We invited them to come out and have burgers. We would also see that sometimes they might need something to eat, so we were there to give them something to eat. Sometimes they needed some financial assistance because of school. So what do? We chopped in, we gave them money. Didn't ask you to give that to me. We just gonna help you out. I ain't necessarily advising everybody to do that, but I'm saying that's how you build family, right? Because that's what families do. We support one another. We encourage one another. So marry your professionalism with your family perspective, your family values, your family system. That helps to build it, because ladies and gentlemen, it allows us to make sure that in the classroom, students feel like I belong. That's how I feel like I belong. I feel like I belong because when I look at the teacher might not necessarily look at me, but they feel me. And you know what I mean when I say they feel every ounce of me, because I've seen them support me. Remember I talked about they can smell when. Well, if I see you engaged, you consistent with it, because that's the key too. You consistent with it, then I know that you're real. Then I know that you are who you say you will be. This is how we build successful students. We build successful students and by creating a space where they feel like I belong. This is how you build community. You build community by being able to understand, by doing research and understanding who's in my classroom, who's on my campus, who is in my office at this particular time. How can I talk to them? Many of us have done the love languages thing, right? Some people are folks that need that quality time. Some people need words of affirmation. So this, again, helps to build a community because you've gotten to know them. So I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to do those things. Again, the element of the environment that you create needs to be a home. Those 4 things we talked about: embrace cultural differences, show support, eliminate judgment. And then the last one was combine professionalism with family. The last thing I'll say as we close out is that we have to remember as educators, one, as an educator, you got into this because you care. You got into this because you care. It wasn't about money. Now, some of us, we say that a lot too. It's not about the money, but real talk meets the road. Y'all, some of us, if somebody offering you about $200,000 or $300,000 more than where I guarantee you ain't gonna be talking about it's not money. Guarantee you ain't gonna be talking about this the money. So I want to say that stop saying that, because it is the money makes a difference. We need to stop saying that. We really do. So what we're saying is I love what I'm doing. Yes, I would like to get paid more, but I love what I'm doing. We got into this because we love educating young people. We want to see young people grow. Everybody that's in this space right now, that's what you want to do. You're in this space because you want to see young people in your environments grow. You want to support them. You want to develop them. You want to make sure that professionally, when they're like 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, that they can reach back and tell you, thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for allowing me to be me, right? It helped me to develop those hard conversations that I needed to hear. You were the person I went to. You had those hard conversations and you didn't judge me. You didn't judge me. And that's how you build community. So remember that we as educators, we have the ability, and we do because we care. Because we care. My alma mater, Central Michigan University, care, knowledge, availability, and follow through. I remember that since I was an undergrad up into even grad. Matter of fact, I'm trying to implement this at the University of Toledo right now in my current role. Care, knowledge, availability, and follow through. It makes a difference, y'all. So when you care, they smell that too. They smell it and they're like, oh, Mr. Pryor, real. He real. He just don't show up in his ones and with his shirt and with his tie on, with his slacks on, and he got his ones on because he ain't wearing his Stacy's, but he's got his ones on. You know what I'm saying? He's real. I can relate to him. But then when he does have his Stacy's on, I still can relate to him. Still can relate to him. So I hope you gain something from what we said as you move forward to the incoming year and beyond. As educators, like Logan said, you matter, you absolutely matter, but this is how community. So I say have a great rest of the conference. We'll talk to y'all later. Be blessed.